One day, however, Don Juan thought his luck was beginning to change. He found temporary work with a team of farm laborers during the harvest season. But the spirit had other designs for him. A couple of days after he started work, someone stole his hat. It was impossible for him to buy a new one, but he had to have one to work under the scorching sun. He fashioned a protection of sorts by covering his head with rags and handfuls of straw. His co-workers began to laugh and taunt him. He ignored them. Compared to the lives of the 3 people who depended on his labor, how he looked had little meaning for him. But the men didn't stop. They yelled and laughed until the foreman, fearing that they would riot, fired Don Juan. A wild rage overwhelmed Don Juan's sense of sobriety and caution. He knew he had been wronged. The moral right was with him. He let out a chilling, piercing scream and grabbed one of the men and lifted him over his shoulders, meaning to crack his back. But he thought of those hungry children. He thought of their disciplined little bodies as they sat with him night after night, awaiting death. He put the man down and walked away. Don Juan said that he sat down at the edge of the field where the men were working, and all the despair that had accumulated in him finally exploded. It was a silent rage, but not against the people around him. He raged against himself. He raged until all his anger was spent. I sat there in view of all those people and began to weep, Don Juan continued. They looked at me as if I were crazy, which I really was, but I didn't care. I was beyond caring. The foreman felt sorry for me and came over to give a word of advice. He thought I was weeping for myself. He couldn't have possibly known that I was weeping for the spirit. Don Juan said that a silent protector came to him after his rage was spent. It was in the form of an unaccountable surge of energy that left him with the clear feeling that his death was imminent. He knew that he wasn't going to have time to see his adopted family again. He apologized to them in a loud voice for not having had the fortitude and wisdom necessary to deliver them from their hell on earth. The farm workers continued to laugh and mock him. He vaguely heard them. Tears swelled in his chest as he addressed and thanked the spirit for having placed him in the Nagual's path, giving him an undeserved chance to be free. He heard the howls of the uncomprehending men. He heard their insults and yells as if from within himself. They had the right to ridicule him. He had been at the portals of eternity and had been unaware of it. I understood how right my benefactor had been, Don Juan said. My stupidity was a monster, and it had already devoured me. The instant I had that thought, I knew that anything I could say or do was useless. I had lost my chance. Now I was only clowning for those men. The spirit could not possibly have cared about my despair. There were too many of us, men with our own petty private hells, born of our stupidity, for the spirit to pay attention. I knelt and faced the southeast. I thanked my benefactor again and told the spirit I was ashamed, so ashamed. And with my last breath, I said goodbye to a world which could have been wonderful if I had had wisdom. An immense wave came for me then. I felt it first, then I heard it, and finally I saw it coming for me from the southeast over the fields. It overtook me, and its blackness covered me, and the light of my life was gone. My hell had ended. I was finally dead. I was finally free.